Once the stream went down, going to be moving up to the 50 pounds, 22.67 kilograms. Oh, oh, hold on. Oh, that hurt. Oh. Oh, it did not feel good. Right before I went back with the 50s, there was a thought that, like, oh, man, doing the increased weight is going to be. Oh. I'm going to try and mitigate that pain. Oh. See if this will help. Whew. Ouch. That's fun. I think this. I would really like this to be the last time I burn my back this bad. This may be one of the third worst sunburns I've ever had. It's definitely the worst one I've had in a long time. Let's try this one more time. All right. I'm going to change up my workout plan for today. That's very frustrating. Just a little bit more pain than I want to deal with. What to do? Some random stuff, I guess. Some bicep curls. Yeah, right before I laid back with the 50 pounds, I had the thought that, like, is this gonna hurt more because I'm putting more weight on my back, on more pressure on the skin. And turns out, yeah, that hurt a lot more. The worst sunburn I ever got was it was like 16 or 17, and I lived on a tropical island. And I fell asleep on the beach, and my skin got burned so bad it was like purplish. My dad was pissed. He yelled at me so much and kept talking about how if we were in the Marine Corps, you know, they would dock my pay and I'd be in trouble. My dad was a Marine, or is a Marine. Tell you what, that was a nice, nice release of endorphins on that, from that pain. I'm feeling pretty awake and alive. I was finding it amazing, like what endorphins and adrenaline can do to keep you upright. My biggest like one was, said before, not to keep bringing it up, but like getting hit by a car. Like my adrenaline shot up, and I knew I was hurt, but I didn't know like how bad, and I was still like walking around, and I worked for a group home, so I had to get the kids to listen and be safe while I called the police and was reporting the accident. And man, like long enough to call the police. It's probably like, I don't know if it was like over 5 minutes, but it was a while. And all of a sudden, that adrenaline started to dissipate, and I went from like standing up, being able to walk around, to like I couldn't walk. I had to sit down, and like the pain like came. I was like, oh man, maybe maybe I really appreciate adrenaline. If I had to have run on it to get to safety, I could have ran for a while. I think the part that was like hard about adrenaline when you're younger is like when you're a kid, it seems like you get into you like getting into a fight in like elementary school or even as late as junior high, and then you get like this big adrenaline dump because you think the fight's gonna happen, and then it doesn't happen, and like your body just like left trying to get rid of that adrenaline, so you get like sometimes you get shaky, or sometimes you would even like start to tear up for no reason, like you just didn't know didn't know what to do with all that adrenaline. And then when I worked for a group home, it was it's called Level 14 Group Home, and kids would like act out and sometimes get violent and try to hurt themselves or hurt other people, hurt other kids or hurt staff. And man, like it's a hands-on facility, so you have to be prepared to hold people down. And throughout the day, I would just experience so many adrenaline rushes, like one after the other, because someone would start to act out, and you didn't know, like, be on one side of the house, and you hear something slam or hear someone yell, and you'd have to like sprint down the hall to find out what was going on. And you would try to be calm when you got there because you couldn't like show up like, oh, like crazy, even though your adrenaline was pumping. You had to like calm and try and process the situation, keep everything from going to a hold if you could, but you're just constantly getting adrenaline. By the end of the day, you'd be so drained. That job was the hardest job I ever had. you're like, there wasn't just like the physical restraints and stuff that you had to do. It was also just the counseling and hearing these kids' stories and seeing like the effects of their like childhood played out. And some of these kids, like, they'd have just horrific stories, and they wouldn't even tell you. Like you'd read them. Like sometimes they would tell you, but a lot of times you'd read them in their files and stuff, and you just see how it was acted out. Just awful. And so much of it, like the general public's not even really aware of like how much abuse and how bad kids have it. I don't know about other countries, but the United States, we do a lot. It seems to like hide it and keep the general public from knowing like how bad things are. And there's like this horrible side where you think you've heard you think you've heard enough that you're desensitized to it, but it's just not true. It's like you may make it through your days for the most part able to deal with it, but then sometimes then it would just hit you like waves of just how evil things were and how like rough it was for these kids. And those are those were like the hard nights when you're by yourself trying not to think about it. One of the kids that just it was rough to see was a super nice kid, really nice guy. Um, would have been someone that would have been like really popular. Just really nice kid, and like all over his arms and body, he had just scars, like long scars from his dad torturing him. And I worked with him for such a long time that you get used to seeing the scars. Like when you first see it, it's like you try not to look at him, and then after time, it just kind of like tattoos on your friends. Like you just stop noticing them as much. And then one day he shaved his head, and he just had so many more scars I'd never seen, and it just hit me like a truck. It was just so bad. I was like, man, this I cannot believe this happened to a kid. The second worst sunburn I ever got was working in a field. I worked for a construction and maintenance company, and the owner had bought this shop that was had this like quarter-acre field in the back that he needed cleared, and there was a lot of water on the field. Um, by a lot, I mean it was like 6 inches or so of standing water, and it was one of those things where he couldn't get his tractor out there to clear it because there was too much water, and nobody wanted to get stuck. So I went out there with the weed whacker and had to clear it. And it was like a 90-degree day, and 90 degrees is 30 degrees Celsius. So 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 degrees Celsius. And went out there, cleared the field, but at some point I had like taken off my shirt because no one was there, and I ended up with like blisters on my back, all these like tiny little blisters. That was a bad burn. Whatever happens, I need this sunburn to heal for Father's Day. I'm supposed to get a full body massage on Father's Day, and I really need to heal by then. I don't want to go in with like peeling skin. I don't want them to be like, oh no, you can't be in here. Your skin's peeling off. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's gonna be Really frustrating with this. It's in the way. I posted a video on YouTube, just a short of I'm doing bicep curls earlier this week, and it was like my last set of the day. I'd done like 170 reps, so I post very often. I'll post like the clips where I'm not doing good, like where I'm exhausted, and so people will comment on my form, and my form's not great, so I get it, but usually it's like this is where my form has completely gone down the drain because I'm just trying to squeeze out the last like drops of an exercise. And somebody commented like, "Oh, you should use less weight." I know it's not like easily seen, but I was only doing like um 20 pound dumbbells. I was like, oh man, like yeah, I don't think you realize like this is like the bottom rung. Like I'm not gonna go down to 15s. Like this is the end of the day. But I just thought it was funny. Like I just didn't realize like they just didn't realize like there's not really much to go down. This is just it. This is just me trying to squeeze out the last little bit. I do get very easily distracted and caught up in my brain, so my form is not always as good as it should be. But well, maybe hopefully my back will be healed up by Monday, and I can do the bench press then. Just swap out since I'm doing biceps again today. Instead of bench press, I'll just swap it out. On Monday, I'll do chest. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? I don't know why that's in my head. But Sesame Street got into my head somehow. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? I'm gonna do one more set and then I'm gonna end it for today. Super excited. My little brother is graduating from high school today. It's my youngest brother. My mom is gonna be bawling like a baby. I bet. I'm gonna be really surprised. My dad might choke up. Let's see. So my parents have 4 kids, and we all graduated from high school. This will be the first time they've gone to a high school graduation for one of their kids, because the rest of us graduated high school via homeschooling, and we lived in China. We never had any graduation ceremonies. I did have a graduation ceremony when I graduated from college. I got an associate's degree in theology, and I can tell you, I wasn't too stoked on doing a graduation ceremony in the first place. But if I ever graduate from college or anything again, I definitely will skip out on doing a ceremony if I can. It's so long. This is how my brain gets easily distracted. I went from thinking about the graduation, not wanting to do a ceremony, to thinking about the valedictorians and the people that get up to do the speeches, and how, well, they may be good at giving a speech. You always know there's like funnier people in the class that could have done a way more entertaining speech, and you wish that they'd had a chance to talk because they would have made it fun. And then I was from there quickly went on thinking about how people do debate teams and how those guys could be good at speaking, but I saw like a debate teams have like changed a lot since I was a kid, and now they just talk so fast. There's no eloquence to what they're saying. They just are spitting out. And I saw this girl doing a debate, and she was even doing it as a Zoom debate, like not even in front of people, but she would talk so fast, and then she would take these like quick gas marks, and she'd keep talking, and go, keep talking, and like, that sounds horrible. Like I was completely distracted by her breath. And when I did listen to her, there wasn't really any substance to what she was saying. She was just talking fast, and they completely miss the how a debate should be. There should be some sort of presence. Nobody would sit there and listen to that if it wasn't a contest. They wouldn't carry the crowd. I like watching videos of like the Canadian Parliament or the British Parliament when they're debating. Those guys are awesome. And I don't mean their politics, but just their ability to rapid fire at each other with their thoughts and denounce one another. Just, it's pretty amazing how fast some of these guys think and can put together. And I'm sure there's some level of practicing beforehand. Maybe they have some lines they know they want to get out, but just their delivery and how they it's pretty impressive. It makes you really think that they care. And I don't think they necessarily do care, but it comes across that way. It's definitely fascinating to watch. If you ever want to see really good debaters, check out the British Parliament or the Canadian Parliament. I know there's other parliaments out there and other government bodies in other countries, but and I've seen them. I just don't understand the language, but you definitely tell that somebody's having a good time tearing somebody apart verbally. And in some countries, those parliaments can start fighting. That was the funny, not the funniest part, but the interesting part around the January 6th riots in the U.S. at Congress, because a lot of the senators and stuff were talking about, oh, these hallowed halls like that have always been, you know, respected and great, and they put a lot of pomp and circumstances to the Capitol. And it's not like, if you know history, like they it took them a long time to make rules about, you know, not letting people have their dogs in the Congress, because their dogs would be pooping or peeing on the floor in front of everyone. There were fights. You know, people would fight. They had to make rules against dueling, because people would go and, you know, outside have a fight or shoot each other. Like, uh, people would spit tobacco all over the place. Tobacco was all over the ground. People like were awful. Like, you had people in there that were, you know, getting full on arguments about slavery and why it should be okay, and cursing those people that wanted to abolish it. We have this, but then they present it as this, like, oh, this is just the purest of places. This is just, you know, hallowed ground. It's like, not historically, you know. And I'm not saying like, oh, that makes it okay to riot or invade. I just think it's funny how they try to redress up history and make some things are sacred and holy that were never sacred and holy. But all right, that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming by. It's Thursday, so the weekend's almost here. Have a good rest of your week. God bless you.